Good afternoon. Good afternoon in Kenya and in Italy. My name is Aurélien Lorange, and together with my colleagues from the Corax Foundation, we'll see a day 2 match in the Group H between two teams, so the University of Nairobi and the IULM University of Milan. So I give the floor to my colleague, Ms. Urbanova.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the two teams, and of course the three judges. We welcome you and thank you for reviewing this match. Today's topic that the teams received 7 days in advance is whether or not orbital debris threatening safety must be removable by an international authority without owner consent. So on this topic, the teams have prepared for and against arguments. We'll find out shortly which side they will represent during the match. But before we get to that part, I would like to invite these teams for introductions, starting with University of Nairobi, Ms. Baraza.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again, second match, and I'm looking forward to interacting with the University of Milan as well as to just engage with everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome from IULM University of Milan, Ms. Cavallo.
Hello everyone, my name is Giulia. It is a pleasure to be here today. I hope to have a constructive and fun debate with you all and to know us better. Thank you.
Welcome from University of Nairobi, Mr. Irung.
Good afternoon from Nairobi. My name is Ian Irungu. Happy to say the first day jitters are already gone. And I'm excited as well to engage with you guys today for this debate.
Thank you. Welcome from IULM University of Milan, Mr. Loria.
Hi everyone, I am Gian Vincenzo. I'm really glad to be here. I'm honored to represent my university, and I'm thrilled as well to engage with you guys. Thanks for being here.
Welcome from University of Nairobi, Mr. Kitui.
Hi guys, I hope everyone's doing well from whatever corner in the world you are currently. It's great to be in another match. It's great to see some familiar faces once more. So the people presiding the round, it's good to see you guys again. And it's great to interact with some new opponents. And I'm looking forward to today's match. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. IULM University of Milan's Mr. Michelon.
Hi everyone, my name is Alessio. I'm very glad to be here today. Let's hope that we have a really good match. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Also a shout out and a big thank you for the coaches that support the teams and their support network. I believe we also have Ms. Lanzoni, that is one of the two coaches for IULM University of Milan.
Hello everyone. I'm really glad to be here and to have coached the guys for this match, and I hope it will be an engaging match for you all. Good luck.
Thank you and welcome. In a short moment, you should be able to see the wheel for the allocation of positions. If I can just get confirmation that you do.
Yes.
Thank you. So there are two possibilities for each team, in favor and against. And we'll soon find out that for today's debate. It is the IULM University of Milan that defends the in favor position for today's debate. Therefore, the team will defend the statement that orbital debris threatening safety must be removable by an international authority without owner consent. And the team of University of Nairobi will argue against this motion. You now have 5 minutes to finalize your preparations. Feel free to close your cameras and microphones. Thank you, everyone. Your time for final preparation has now passed. We'll proceed by hearing the opening statements for the in favor position. You will now have 4 minutes.
Can you hear me and see me well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Honorable judges and distinguished colleagues, human beings have always reached for the stars since the beginning of history, but today we risk of locking ourselves out of that ambition. According to the WEF and research from Leo Lab, if we don't act on the issue before the year 2032, we won't be able to launch anything in space anymore. This means no more satellites and no more future missions. This is why our position is clear. Orbital debris that poses a threat to safety must be removable by an international authority, even without the consent of the owning state, so that future generations will be able to achieve the dream of space travel and exploration. We are facing an urgent threat because according to the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs and technical reports from the European Space Agency, more than 36,000 tracked objects that are larger than 10 centimeters are currently orbiting the Earth, alongside millions of smaller fragments that are capable of causing catastrophic damage. Outer space is a critical global infrastructure for human beings because modern society depends on space-based assets for telecommunications, GPS, climate monitoring, and financial systems. Not only so, it is not only about space, but also about essential services worldwide on Earth. The first one will also pay the price for these problems, of course, are going to be the less developed countries who have no say in space matters, but will still suffer the consequences of others' actions. The core of this debate also lies in a legal paradox. Because on one hand, the Outer Space Treaty, which is the basis of space law, establishes in Article 9 that outer space is a province of all mankind. And everyone can explore it freely and use it freely with due regard to the interests of other states. And this principle of due regard creates a positive obligation not to generate risks to other states. However, on the other hand, Article 8 says that a state maintains jurisdiction over its registered space objects. So this creates a structural deadlock because even when a dead object becomes dangerous, no other actor may intervene without the owner's consent. But at the same time, that inaction can be considered negligence. So the current legal system is set up for failure and paralysis, and we propose a unified solution to it. This is also not so much different from already existing legal frameworks, because, for example, the International Convention relating to intervention on the high seas in case of oil pollution casualties authorizes coastal states to take necessary measures when there is a grave and imminent danger of oil pollution, even without the owner's consent. So this principle is very clear and important because in the face of serious transboundary and environmental danger, consent is not always absolute. So just like the great seas, outer space is the province of all mankind. It cannot become hostage to the inaction of individual space. When orbital debris presents a concrete threat to space exploration, the international community does not merely have the right to act, it has the duty to act. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now for the opening statement in the against position, University of Nairobi, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I shall begin in 3, 2, 1, go. Honorable Chair, members of the panel, let's be very clear about what this motion asks you to sign off. It's not about better rules dealing with the disposal of orbital debris that endanger safety. It's not better or more coordination among states in achieving these objectives. It asks you to endorse an international authority that can essentially arbitrarily grab and dispose of another state's hardware without that state's consent in a domain that is strategically sensitive, considering the military implications, that is legally fragile, considering the legal text of the treaties that we already have, and that is technologically problematic, given that it is impossible to define with absolute certainty what orbital debris threatening safety are, and considering the variety of space objects that are in space. We on the opposition are not denialists of the science of the dangers of orbital debris. We agree that the debris problem is serious. Our case is that this solution is illegal under current law. It is strategically dangerous and it is unnecessary because there are better ways to coordinate. Now, to address the legal question, the black letter law as it stands from Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty explicitly states that a state on whose registry a state object has been registered shall retain jurisdiction and control over such object. Now, we note that the proposition has pointed to Article 9 as well as Article 1 that require that outer space is the province of mankind. However, we need to distinguish the mostly aspirational and cooperative language of the treaty from the provisions of the treaty that impose clear obligations. This is in line with the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, especially Article 31, which only provide for contextual interpretation in the case where the ordinary meaning and purpose of the provision is not clear. This is not the case in our present situation because the text of Article 8 is clear that a state will retain ownership of and jurisdiction over the state object, even if the state object becomes non-functional or is destroyed. In fact, there is no comparative concept of salvage in outer space the way it applies in maritime law. The proposition has attempted to draw an analogy from maritime law by looking at the conventions that state that wreckage in the sea can be removed without the owner's consent. However, in several papers, especially one by Michael List now, writing for the International Space Agency, he makes the comparison to warships at sea. Now, a sunken warship by a state remains the property of the flag state until it is expressly abandoned by that state. In fact, even under maritime law, if an affected state wants to remove a sunken warship that poses a danger to navigation or transit, they have to first contact the flag state of the vessel in question. Only when the flag state has refused to remove the debris or has made no reasonable attempt can another state step in. This still means that consent of the state where the vessel has been registered is important. Drawing this back again to international space law, we find that we can apply the same analysis to the Outer Space Treaty. Again, the proposition has brought in the concept of negligence, that a state leaving non-functional orbital debris in outer space is negligent. However, our position is that this is also already addressed by the present international space law regime. The liability convention apportions liability for when there are accidents or damages caused by space debris. It provides for strict liability if the damage occurs on the surface of the Earth and endangers life or infrastructure, and it provides for fault-based liability if the accidents occur in space. And therefore, we see that negligence and liability concerns have already been sufficiently addressed. In practice also, we see consistently that states have behaved as if consent is necessary whenever another state wishes to clean up their own debris. This is because technology remains proprietary and it will be irresponsible to allow any state to simply grab arbitrarily another state's property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are proceeding now to rebuttals. First rebuttal, IULM University of Milan for in favor position, 2 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, nice. I start in 3, 2, 1, go. Honorable judges, the situation depicted by the opponent team says that the interest of the state is destroying the commonwealth of the space. We must evolve our interpretation of sovereignty to include a mandatory collective responsibility for remediation. If a state is unable or unwilling to act within a reasonable time frame, the international authority must step in to protect the commons and the interests of all the world. The opposition primary defense rests on the Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty. because a state never loses the ownership. An intervention is an illegal seizure. But this is not true, because this logic ignores the principle of law of elasticity. That means that in every legal system, property rights can be compressed when a superior public interest is at stake. We know that even a tiny fragment, big as a grain of sand, can be deadly, as we see in the incident of Soyuz in 2022, when 3 people lose their lives. To prevent tragedy like that, the owner's right must come in second place, behind the right of life and the survival of critical infrastructure like GPS and technology. Also, sovereignty ownership cannot be used as a shield to negligence. And also, there will be no military technology if we let the debris go around the orbit of our Earth. We must choose. Do we protect the perpetuity of dangerous space junk or the perpetuity of our access to stars and critical technologies? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for the first rebuttal, India against opposition, University of Nairobi. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. I will start in 3, 2, 1. Honorable panel and worthy opponents, the motion in question does not contest whether debris removal is imperative. To that, we agree. The question is whether a state consent should be waived or it should be adhered to the latter. And we as the opposition team stick that particular consent must be adhered to. The team proposition have relied on the elasticity of the law, and they have stated as to why it is important for us to essentially ensure that the space in itself is free for peaceful use, and it is important. However, they have not clearly established why that consent that especially comes from state should essentially be waived. Because if you're able to read the wording of the Liability Convention, if you're able to read Article 1 and Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty, they actively implore coordination, not unilateral action. So even if we have been able to strictly stand on Article 8 on jurisdiction, we are still not opposed to the fact that states can actively coordinate in ensuring that the efforts of cleaning the space debris have actively been carried out to the latter. And it is imperative for us to, I would like to draw this panel's attention to an article by Melissa Foss, who is an international space lawyer. And in her article, Active Space Debris Removal, when consent is not an option, even though she acknowledges that it is imperative for us to especially interpret beyond the confines of Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty, she has also specifically emphasized as to why it is important for state coordination to also exist. Because one, there are liability risks that also need to be taken into consideration. But again, secondly, there has been no customary practice that has already existed. And that is even why the question or even the language of the UN Committee Guidelines on Space Debris Mitigation, it actively implores states to take necessary steps in order to coordinate in the removal of space debris. Additionally, all the sources that have been relied upon by the team proposition, they do not express any level of unilateral action. If the panel chooses to agree with team proposition, they stand on the fact that one, states are not given the option to even coordinate or rather cooperate. But again, secondly, their voices are not going to be heard. So in this instance, we as team opposition actively negate the motion that an international organization should be given the authority to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now for the second rebuttal for the in favor position, IULM University of Milan.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. So the liability convention, the old liability convention that was signed in 1972, thinking that this law is sufficient framework for handling the debris crisis is a pragmatic fallacy. The current liability regime is reactive, not proactive. That means that it assigns blame after the catastrophe has occurred. Also requires the proof of fault collision, yet fundamentally fails to define what fault actually means. This ambiguity leads to a systematic paralysis. We are figuring out the liability of an accident occurred 15 years ago. We are talking about the 2009 Iridium Cosmos collision, with no one still today that took the responsibility for the scattered debris in the orbit. We have to take in account also the national fragmentation of space law. Without a centralized international authority, private operators engage in regulatory arbitrage. That means they are launching from nations with weakest enforcement. Currently, most irresponsible actors are the most protected. The convention provides no tools for attribution of small fragments that are 90% of the problem, that is legally invisible. To suggest that a broken, reactive, and ambiguous treaty is enough to stop an exponential collision cascade is logically bankrupt. I think that is necessary to remember that we are just a few years close to the no-returning point. Debris are a urgent issue. Today, debris are colliding with satellites, orbital stations, spaceships, creating a cascade effect that increases the orbital objects that are cannonballs for our orbital infrastructure. While we argue over who is the blame for an accident in orbit, the debris is increasing exponentially. And the longer we wait, the closer we get to catastrophic consequences that can lead humanity without technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Now for the second rebuttal in the against position, University of Nairobi, 2 minutes.
Okay. Sorry. I'll be starting on the count of 3, 2, 1. So I'll mostly respond to the immediate former speech. So the effectiveness of the liability convention has been called into question. Our response to this will be that this convention in practice would link the debris to a launching state. So this would lead to the reduction of regulatory evasion. So a state simply cannot say that it was a private company. So under Article 6 of the Outer Space Treaty, remember, states bear the responsibility for national activities in space, including said private actors, in the case that they exercise these, which means that legally you cannot externalize debris risk without state-level consequences, irrespective of the actor that you are in any case. Reinforcing more of our arguments, another argument that I would like to bring to the panel, as the immediate former speaker on our side has rightly said, that we don't dispute that the debris removal is imperative, but the opposing side has not shown us the necessity of changing the mechanism. The mechanism they give, they have a burden to show that at the very least it won't have a greater disutility than what is already functioning. So why will it have greater disutility? In our opinion, this is likely to lead to a slippery slope to resource seizure. How does this happen? So if debris can be removed without consent, so what about inactive satellites? What about mining infrastructure? Or like what about lunar installations? They can't account for a mechanism that won't lead to the inevitable slippery slope that cannot be accounted for. And in any case, we offer better alternatives that work on our side in the case that status quo is not enough. So you can have mechanisms like a mandatory notification system. You can have cost-sharing funds. You can have an insurance regime. You can even have a time-based abandonment doctrine, which is not in practice right now. All of that is better than simply introducing a whole new overarching mechanism. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll hear the concluding statements. IULM University of Milan, you have 2 minutes for in favor conclusions.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So my speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Honorable judges and fellow debaters, this debate had one real question. When a dead satellite becomes a threat to global infrastructure, who has the right to act? The opposition answer was no one, unless the owner agrees, basically. So, with their well-structured speech, they have told you sovereignty is absolute. But our team demonstrated that Outer Space Treaty itself contradicts that claim. During the debate, we saw also the Article 1 defines the space as the province of all mankind. The Article 9 imposes a binding obligation of due regards towards all the other states. So a state that launches debris and does nothing is not exercising sovereignty. It is violating Article 1 and 9, while the opposition teams hiding behind the Article 8. Second point, they have told you that existing framework is basically a sufficient framework. We gave you the only test that matters, the 2009 Iridius Cosmos collision, over 2,000 fragments. A successful claims under the 1972 Liability Convention, 0. In 54 years of space law, this framework has never once worked. This is not stability. This is paralysis dressed in legal language. And third point, they have told you that an international authority could be a little bit dangerous, but that argument chooses the certainty of Kessler that my colleagues mentioned, the Kessler syndrome, over the possibility of abuse. You don't refuse chemotherapy, for example, because of the side effects. We must build safeguards. We must act. So space, as we saw, is the province of all mankind, not of the state that last launches something into it. So judges, this is why you have to support the motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Now for concluding statements in the against position, University of Nairobi.
Honorable panel, it's a pleasure to appear before you once again. As the conclusion of the team opposition, we are not hiding behind Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty. All we are asking is that we have a coordination of Article 1, Article 9, and Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty. We do not advocate for a unilateral action, rather we advocate for a cooperation that takes into consideration the national security interests of states that are actively involved and what vital interests they actually preserve. What this particular motion required was that, one, we ask ourselves, who decides, under what standards, and with what considerations and with what safeguards, and again, lastly, who bears the costs. So far, team proposition have not been able to establish to us how this international organization would essentially be established, which, if we look at it practically, it's more likely to be governed by the existing superpowers, which is the United States, Russia, China, Europe, who are the active contributors of most of the debris which is already within space. So the question is, to what effect would this international organization, and especially what biases would they essentially have? That was a burden that they had. They did not essentially prove to us. But again, secondly, we still rest within the existing safeguards that have already been established. We have the United Nations Committee guidelines on space debris mitigation, which actively still implores states to actively coordinate and cooperate. What the proposition team are pushing is that no consent, no consideration. That is a unilateral action that essentially risks the survival and the sustainability of the general space, and we cannot stand for that, especially for the interest of both the super states as well as the developing states. We rest as team opposition.
Thank you very much, and well done to your teams for concluding your day 2 debate today. Well done on the research and the execution of your arguments today. As in day 1, the 3 judges will have 2 working days to review your match and submit the scoring cuts. Once we validate, we'll share the results with you. But we would also like to encourage you once again to share the feedback amongst yourselves for today's debate. How did you find the topic, the research, and perhaps had you heard familiar arguments from the opposing team from your own researches? Starting with the University of Nairobi, Mr. Kitui.
Great debate, solid arguments from the opposition, and like this, not just something you say, because like you have to say it, but literally the same, because we were just talking about like Kessler syndrome like 4 or 5 hours ago, and how to maybe execute that argument in similar fashion, specifically consistent citation of the law, the OST treaty. All of it was very well done by our opponents, so congratulations to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cavallo of the IULM University of Milan. same question.
I found this topic really interesting. I wasn't really informed before our research, but it was really fun to know about it more with my teammates because I believe space exploration in general to be an amazing topic. We actually found some similar things to the other team. For example, the UN guidelines in other things. And I believe that we both performed really well. I want to give my compliments to the other team and thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Irungu of University of Nairobi.
It was very enjoyable for me. I'm not a scientist or an engineer, but it was fun to actually behave like one for the past week while we were preparing arguments for this. So, very innovative topic, not something that we usually encounter in, at least in our law school, because we don't have international space law. But yeah, very fun to actually do something new and fresh.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Michelin.
Yeah, I just want to add some few others information. It was a very good debate, guys. Very well done. And yeah, I think we had something in common, in particular the Article 8. It was probably the most interesting part. And yeah, I appreciate a lot this topic. Because it was unexpected. Normally, no one speaks about space law, so yeah, it was very innovative.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Kitui. My apologies, Ms. Barata.
It's okay. I'd say I had an interesting time preparing for this particular motion, especially as Ian has said, we are not taking space law in our school, and the fact that we are exiting our final year, it was at least nice to challenge ourselves through this particular space. And researching has been great. I also didn't know anything about space law. I wasn't really interested, but I think this particular week I've been able to cultivate my interest, and it was really nice preparing for this motion. Yeah.
Thank you. And same question to Mr. Loria.
Yeah, I agree for what has been said before. It was a really interesting topic. Also, not just, of course, the law point of view, but also the space engineering and technologies is also a thing that we studied for preparing this debate, and it was a really challenging but really fun topic. And of course, our opponent has been did a really nice job, very nice debate, and it was a pleasure to uh, engage with them.
Thank you. And also same question as we have one of the coaches present also on the call. Yeah, any words of encouragement for the two teams as they head to day 3?
Yes. For my side, I can say that it was really good and it was a pleasure to hear. It was really well made for both the parties, and I want to give you my compliments for my side. And it was really good both to prepare and coach them for the two sides. It was a really interesting topic, and it was really interesting to hear about your points. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Once again, really well done to the two teams. Usually we wrap up the debate sessions with a bit of networking towards the end. For the day 2, we do have 2 questions. You can answer as a whole as a team, so I'm just going to call your team and you can choose which one starts. And the first question would be, what skills or aspects of legal reasoning do you feel you have been using the most during the competition so far, or what are the ones that you feel you need to grow further as you go into day 3? So starting with University of Nairobi's team.
I think for the substantive aspect of preparation for this particular debate, considering that it's a law-heavy debate, the challenge with the legal reasoning portion has been that you need to find a way to translate the more technical legal aspects to something that can be communicated within 4 minutes or 2 minutes, which is a difficult task most of the time, especially because there is hundreds of pages that have been written on very specific niche topics. So I think digesting this into something, one, that is accessible, and two, that is time limited, has been, I think, the best takeaway that I have had from this experience. Because previously you're used to long form discussions, you're used to long form writing. So yes, it definitely helps to sort of break the mold, so to speak.
Thank you. Perhaps your colleagues, if there's anything you would like to add on.
Yeah, so I think just to echo that, you really appreciate precision and conciseness as a skill. It's about a concept we call upward economy in debate, that every word you use needs to be have a lot of utility. It needs to be weighty in a way that is important and contributes to your argumentation. So you can't have a lot of fluff, especially considering how technical the topics are, and the limited time within which you have to dispense, especially from rebuttal speeches, where fundamentally it's a response speech. So you do have to respond to the previous team first and then advance an argument. So if you kind of split that down the middle, it's like 50-50. So that's 1 minute, 1 minute each. So that's definitely been something interesting, because I had to give probably 2 arguments in 30 seconds each, which was sort of fun to do. So yeah, that's it from my perspective.
Thank you. Same question for the IULM University of Milan. What are the skills or the aspects of
Yeah,
people
so
reasoning?
I think the other team really encapsulated what was the hardest points of this motion, because we found that regulations around the space law was very difficult to research for us. Because there are a lot of treaties, different research that says a lot of things. Many of the treaties and the conventions are from the 70s, so sometimes we weren't sure if they were still applicable or not. So there was a lot of hard law to go through and to see which one could be used effectively. And just like Paul said, being like staying inside the time constraint was like the main issue, basically, because you have to be short but effective in the little time that you have, so that your argument can be effective, but also the other team can understand what you're trying to say in order to have a fair rebuttal round. So that's it. So thank you.
Thank you. For the second question, as we are in the middle of the day too, are there any matches that you have already followed? Perhaps your opponent's day 1 match, or perhaps the other teams that are in other groups have you followed either in this edition or perhaps records of past editions? And what were perhaps the impactful teams or styles that you have observed that motivated you to go further? And so once more, first to University of Nairobi.
Yeah, so I would say I was able to watch yesterday's match between the University of Texas and the University of Lagos. And the motion, though not directly linked, it was still on the concept of sovereignty versus the global space, and it was with regards to shared commons. So it was with regards to medicine and health and just how to integrate it. So all I'd say is I noted how each team were able to adapt, especially when it came to responses. So it's not just about what you have prepared for, it's about how do the other teams present, how are you able to respond? And I think those are some of the tactics that we've been able to implement, especially in this particular round. So yeah, it was a good round for sure.
Thank you. Same question for IULM University of Milan.
Yeah, so I actually saw a debate from last year where Coach Lanzoni actually participated, and it was useful for me. I don't remember which country she was against, but it was very useful to me to understand exactly how everything worked. And I also looked at the debate between University of Bologna versus Tallinn, and I really liked both teams because it was the first match. I wanted to see how everyone was going, and I really found them to be, both parties to be really strong. And also I watched the match between our team that we are debated, the team that we debated today versus the Saudi Arabia University, and I really found it interesting also because I think I believe that I found you guys really strong. So it was really nice to be able to be against you today because I think it was a challenge, like a very strong challenge this time.
Thank you, everyone. I'll be passing now the floor to Professor Lagrange to close off today's session. And just a short encouragement, there's another debate match starting in a few minutes. So if you would like to cheer up or down, please keep an eye out.
Yes, congratulations for that match. It was the second match for both teams. So it means soon, yes, we'll hear you for the third and final match of the group phase, sorry. And yes, we encourage you to keep contact as well between the two teams. So there will be a networking session after the group phase. In any case, looking forward to see your final match of the group phase. So well done again. Congratulations, and we keep in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well done. Goodbye.